Hello everybody, welcome back to another movie review, and since I'm not going to be doing the Star Wars stuff in a while, because I gotta rewatch the movies to, fully give you a full review on the films. I'm gonna have to do the same for some other movies like Glass Onion. I'm gonna do a review on those at some point in the future, but the movie that I'm gonna be doing right now is a movie I've seen many times, and this movie, I'll never get sick of this movie because of how important it is, and how great of a message it has. This is actually the first animated movie that I'm going to be doing a review on this channel. And this movie is honestly an amazing and astounding film. It's just it's just one of the best. It's probably one of the greatest animated movies and probably one of the greatest movies of all time. And I remember hearing about this one when I was little. I actually, which I'm gonna reveal the movie real quickly. We're gonna be doing WALL-E. So, and that's the 4K from Criterion. Here's the original DVD from Disney, which the reason why I'm going to be doing this one is because, I'm not doing it on Earth Day, surprisingly, and I'm surprised about that. I don't even know when Earth Day is, so, I don't follow Earth Day. That sounds a little fucked up. I actually, I celebrate Earth Day because I do care about the planet. It's just, I don't know when it is. I'm pretty sure it's in April or something like that. I don't know when the day is, but whenever somebody says it's Earth Day, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's a good thing. I just don't know when it is. You know what I mean? So, probably wondering why I'm going to be doing this in a letterbox format. I I decided to because I can't reset my camera. My camera's stuck on letterbox. So, otherwise, let's do WALL-E. So, this film covers the message of keeping the planet clean, in which it's basically like taking things too far. Like, let's just say the planet builds up with trash. It's basically like saying that people find more things, they get more things, and they get too much. It's about pretty much getting too much, and too much of what you don't need. That's why, at least the way I see it. You get what you need, and then you get stuff just that sits around, pretty much. And of course, this film does have a lot of elements in it that kind of like the madness of mankind, the technology that runs everything when humans don't know how to run anything properly anymore, kind of like thing, and then the corruption that machines have on humans, in which if nobody realized this, I know some people realize this because you gotta realize it. Even the writer actually came up with this themselves, most likely. If you've seen the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, it's all about the evolution of time, and it's also all about machines, like the override of a machine that takes over things. It has the mind of a human, and it's very intelligent, and it's very hard to control it, because once you get the machines up and going, they're not gonna stop. It's gonna go on and on and on. So that's why I just love this film, though. In general, WALL-E's just amazing, and honestly, it shocked me when a lot of people that I know around me said they didn't like the movie WALL-E. I actually got this 4K set from Criterion, and this is the first movie in the Criterion collection. Criterion is known for putting the greatest movies of all time together in these really cool sets where it looks all with some really nice packaging, some great bonus features. There's a lot of bonus features here. This is all the bonus features right there. It goes on and on and on. So, and this is on 4K, so this is really nice. But it also comes with a booklet. And that honestly, the thing that I like most about this is the booklet. It's kind of like a scrapbook. It gives you the original plot of the film, which I'm gonna give. I'm going to tell everybody the original plot because it's here. But if nobody knows this, the original title of the movie was called Trash Planet, in which that's what they put on this scrapbook that comes with this. And on the first page, it reveals the original script for WALL-E. Well, the original ideas that they had, in which honestly, I love this. This just is amazing. Okay, so the original plot of the film is supposed to introduce WALL-E, a lonely character with no purpose. Okay, that's interesting. Kind of like day in life with a plant. Then Eve arrives, a character with a supposed purpose. That is his courtship, which is interesting. Then it reveals the planet, Eve shuts down, the ship returns, and WALL-E leaves. So pretty much like the original one so far. Except the no purpose part. That one, we don't even know WALL-E's purpose. But we think it is to clean up the Earth. It could be something else. I mean, it's revealed to be cleaning up the Earth, and he just finds it to be somewhat not proper. And he wants a better purpose, pretty much. And he doesn't even know his own purpose. He thinks it's just to clean up the Earth and everything, but maybe there's something more to it, kind of thing. That is what they labeled as Act 1 in this booklet. Act 2, there's a whole space travel sequence. They go into the space city, dock and city chase, apparently. There's a chase scene, apparently. Emperor's Court, Eve and the plant, Piglet. Piglet is supposedly the Mo robot, which is the one that cleans up a lot and everything. It cleans the things in which WALL-E comedically annoys on purpose in one scene, in which I honestly will never forget that scene. Ever since I first watched that scene, I just love that one. Then there's a city rally, in which a clock is set, that's a little interesting. And then Piglet, aka Mo, is replaced. And then the next day in the garden, there's a dance scene. Then they follow Eve. WALL-E's in the sewers. There's a couple question marks. Some encounter and playing with Eve. I don't know what that means, but whatever. WALL-E Ed. I don't know what that means, but that doesn't even seem like a word. ID, comma, ED as the revolt leader. Are they missing the A? Aided as the revolt leader. Well, that makes sense. I mean, they had in the movie that he was like the leader of the revolution kind of thing, like the revolt against the Axiom, I guess you can say, about all the machines and everything. Another question mark. Aloe reveal. Aloe. It sounds like a soap name. Pretty sure that's a soap name. But I don't know what aloe means in their terms, but whatever. And there's a chase scene, so yeah. Then WALL-E becomes the leader of the revolt. Okay, so the other thing means, like, I guess they're, like, questioning him as the leader? I don't know. I really don't know. That's Act 2, and then... Okay, this is the part that introduces me. Act 3, it says, Eve is reset to destroy WALL-E. Piglet spies on her, I guess. WALL-E leads the revolt and storms the palace. Confrontation or rendezvous with Eve. They crossed off Piglet dies. Eve the Destroyer. And then they circled Eve the Destroyer. Then it says, the end, robots win, Eve dies. Gelatin banishment and coronation. And where's Wally? Epilogue, back on Trash Planet. Okay, that's... And this is something interesting. They put on here, love is the magnet that draws... that draws Wally through the obstacles. That is a very interesting term, I guess you could say. This is all by the creators of the film, and this is a bit interesting because I've never seen any of this before, and this is something really cool. I mean, I did read the 7-page thing for it. I think it's 7 pages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's 7 pages, and it's a whole paragraph. It's a whole like passage and everything. And honestly, this is beautiful right here. This entire paragraph, Sam Wasson. Man, this is beautiful right here. Whoever Sam Wasson is, they need like an Academy Award or something just from writing this. One of the best passages I've ever read about any movie. This passage, I keep confusing paragraph and passage. This passage is beautiful. The way that he set this up, it's just, man, he actually gives a great description of how important this film is, and I just love it, man. I just love it. Then there's the inspiration for it and everything, in which the inspiration came in 1994. It was near the end of Toy Story's filming that apparently they gave the brainstorming lunch. Okay. Stanton pitched a story about a lonely robot accidentally left on Earth after humankind had departed. So, accidentally left on Earth. So that's a great idea. Then here's a synopsis. Oh, nice. Nice. Okay. So this is basically all of like the this is basically the scene where like the storm comes at the very beginning of the movie, like the dust storm comes at the beginning of the movie, and that's when Wally shows Eve his truck, I guess you could say. So that's the whole writing of it right here. It's like 2 pages written of the whole thing, in which I definitely have to agree. Buy this release. It's worth it. If you have a 4K player, it's gonna be so much worth it. Some more scrapbook writing. Some really cool sketches, which I'll show some of the sketches. Some pretty cool sketches. Ah, nice. This is all like the interior of the truck, all the shelves. That's also very nice. Yeah, this is just amazing. The way that it just shows everything. It's gathered this for like thousands of years in the film. And then this is all about the remaster of the movie. So it's like in 4K. It has unique HDR and stuff like that. It's like a 4K remaster. It's like talking about how good it's remastered and all the credits. So that's the scrapbook that comes with this. It gives you the whole thing about the original plot being that apparently it's all about a revolt against the machines and everything, against like this space empire kind of deal. And I never expected to hear anything about that, but that sounds interesting. I love how it also has the ball from Toy Story. That's really cool. Otherwise, so that was the original plot that I talked about, and all the other things in the scrapbook that comes with this. But now I'm going to get to the actual movie. Alright. So, WALL-E. Enough of me talking about its importance. Let's get to the storyline. So, the movie starts off with I guess you could say, it shows in space that the entire Earth is surrounded by satellites that was sent up into Earth so many times. Just so many times. And there's about millions of satellites just out in space because of how many years it's been. And everything looks like it's collected dust, in which we are shown everything. And it's backed by the music from an old movie called Hello Dolly, in which is used to somehow suppress joy in a surprisingly dark story of what Earth has come to. And it shows all like the trash all piled up on Earth. There's like towers of trash everywhere. Like you can go across the Earth and there's all trash. So it just amazes me how much this movie has done and how important it is. But otherwise, it goes on to Earth. It shows us that WALL-E is like, he grabs trash and he puts into cubes, and then he puts the cubes and builds, I guess you could say, he builds towers out of the trash. It shows us that that's what he's been doing all these years, in which he's been there for thousands of years, which is revealed later on. And while doing so, he got surprisingly really bored, and he also got really depressed. So he also meets a cockroach, in which is the only living life force that's there on that planet. And he befriends the cockroach. He pretty much tames it, because the cockroach sees another life form, I guess you can say. Even though it's a robot, but still, the robot has a life of its own. It clearly does. It has its own mindset, and it completely relies on everything, very much. And it finds out new things every day, and learns everything. So it goes back to a truck in which it has all of its very important valuables, the things that it just likes. It sees something. Well, WALL-E sees something, and he wants to know what it is. In which, what does he do? He keeps it. In which he has he collects things. He has a truck where he puts everything on the shelves to collect. In which, when he does so, he actually has a good amount of shelves full of valuables that he somehow finds to be somewhat interesting. Like a Rubik's Cube, for an example, in which he reveals that later on. He doesn't know what it is. But his most prized possession is a tape of Hello Dolly, in which he uses it to show things, and he also uses it to entertain himself. It's his only source of entertainment whatsoever, and he's had it for so long. That movie came out in like the 60s, and this takes place thousands of years into the future. Just think about how old that freaking tape is. So that tape's like thousands of years old, and it still works. So he uses the tape as his source of entertainment. He even shows Eve later on the tape, and he shows his dancing skills and everything. He's all learned that from just the tape. He sees the tape once, he learns a lot from it. So it's beautiful the way it shows it. The way it shows it like that is very beautiful. I love this movie so much. Otherwise, so he gets all that stuff. He grabs all. He pretty much puts himself to sleep. He wakes up in the morning, does the same routine, and which, well, he does the routine of getting up, recharging himself, then going out to basically clean more. In which someday he finds like this red dot on the ground. He decides to try to grab it. The thing moves. It leads him into like a field, in which I think it's the ocean, to be honest, because it seems like it's open. It's so open that I feel as if it's the ocean. The way that it's all shown, it clearly looks like it's the ocean, and that the ocean dried up. So he actually honestly he is probably the most scared he's ever been in this part, because then something is above him. It's a spaceship that comes down basically to deliver the Eve probe, in which the Eve probe, which is actually a robot sent there to try to find organic life, in which Wally is the only one who knows where it is. So, what happens? I'm just trying to remember the movie. Because it's been about a couple months since I've seen this, and I have the memory like I have the memory of Dory. I literally can't remember a lot of things, but I'm just trying to remember the film, because I've seen it a good amount of times, but it's been a while in between of how many times I've watched this movie, so it's one of those movies that you should watch a lot, though, because it's a movie I definitely agree is one of the greatest. So he meets Wally. Eve meets Wally for the first time when Wally sees her like going around and everything, basically flying around, shows her skills. Basically, she's like basically free. Basically, she's I'm using basically a lot. Otherwise, I don't know how to put this in particular words. All I gotta say is though she gets the hang of flying. She has all these abilities that she has where she can spin. It's revealed that she can actually sneeze. She has like some pretty great intelligence. For like robotic life, she actually has some magnificence magnificent structure. Like, she's made of something that is hard to find, I guess you could say. I mean, it looks like she's made of plastic. It really does. But it seems like it's a lot more than that. She's a robot that uses like some kind of she's more advanced because it's in the future, and Wally's like this old-fashioned robot from thousands of years before, and he sees like this new robot that looks completely different. He immediately falls in love with Eve, in which Eve is revealed to be female because it's Eve. I mean, you really think about Eve. And of course, it kind of looks like a female, to be honest. It looks like a female. Otherwise, I'm getting carried away here. So he sees her, then she stops to the things, and he was observing, and he knocks over a rock, and Eve has a gun in which she shoots at the rock, scares Wally in every inch of his life, and she just leaves. But she also turns him on, in which he keeps trying to find a way to introduce himself to her, basically trying to open himself up to her. So, in other words, redeem himself, kind of thing. So he's basically trying to show himself, and Eve tries to ignore his appearance, in which she just avoids him at every time, intentionally and unintentionally. So eventually, she one day gets stuck to a magnet, and she destroys the magnet and destroys like a whole bunch of cargo ships that were just lying there and everything, and in which she's completely angry from getting stuck to a magnet, in which she's clearly metal. I mean, it looks like she's plastic, but it's clearly obvious that she's metal. She's made of some kind of metal, like titanium or something. Something hard to come by. So yeah, otherwise, she blows up the ships, and Wally sees her. He tries talking to her. She talks to him. She talks in so many different languages until eventually she gets to English, in which Wally understands and he speaks. So they learn each other's names, and eventually this sandstorm appears, in which Wally is alerted immediately because he just starts beeping, and eventually he notices the sandstorm, and he tries to warn Eve, and eventually the sandstorm loses both of them in the storm, and he eventually finds her, she finds him, and brings them to the truck, in which they are in the truck, and he introduces her to Hello Dolly. He shows her the Rubik's Cube, he shows her bubble wrap, and he teaches her how to dance. Well, he just like dances right in front of her just to show her how they do it and everything, and eventually he's like teaching her a whole bunch of things, and right after that, she spins at some point and accidentally sends Wally flying against a wall, and he falls from that wall, and he has a permanently damaged eye, in which he has to remove his eye and replace it with another eye, in which that works because it's like kind of like binocular eyes, it seemed like. And in that scene, he also wants to show her the plant that he found, and as soon as he shows it to her, she immediately reacts, takes the plant, pretty much puts it inside of her, and completely shuts off. In which he tries to wake her up, and she won't wake up. So he does desperate measures to try to get her up, in which eventually he spends a lot of time with her, just in a coma pretty much, and the funny moment when he's like playing Pong and everything, and he has like 1,000 points and everything, and she has nothing, and he's just like, eventually he gets bored. I mean, that was one detail I just couldn't stop laughing to, is that he won around 1,000 times, and it took him that many times to get bored. That's pretty damn funny. That's a pretty funny detail. And right after that, you get to see a montage of him out in the rain, out in the sun, pretty much. And eventually one day he goes about his life and tries to like build some trash and everything. He builds trash, and then he just stares at it for like a while because of how depressed he is. He's depressed because he pretty much thinks Wally's like she's unresponsive. He doesn't know what to do. So he's upset, he's trying to think, and then all of a sudden the ground starts to shake, in which he hears the spaceship arrive, in which he goes to try to find her. He goes to help her because she's on top of his trailer, in which, well, his truck and everything. So he goes after her. He goes towards the rocket ship, and eventually he tells the cockroach to stay there, in which of course, the cockroach stays there, and he climbs the side of the ship to get to her, in which the ship takes off before he can even get to her, in which he's hanging onto the side of the ship as it's going into space. So the ship goes through all the satellites, and it's funny, the first ever satellite is the one that gets stuck to Wally. He turns his head to get it off of him, and he's floating through space with the ship and everything, and of course he notices Eve inside of the ship and everything. He is going through space. He recharges himself next to the sun, which is kind of funny in a way. He notices all the stars. It's all beautiful shots. Honestly, I love the shots that this movie has. This movie is one of the best for its cinematography. Like, the visual effects are just amazing on this film, and this scene is just a beautiful scene. I just love this entire scene where it just shows him just looking at the stars. He's all mesmerized by everything. He's all entranced by the stars. And then he notices in the distance the Axiom, in which the ship arrives to, in which is a huge ship that holds all the humans that were left on Earth, or at least their descendants, because it's 4,000 years ago, or at least thousands of years ago. I don't know how many thousands, but thousands. And in which now that I think about it, could be thousands or hundreds. It's hundreds. It's hundreds. I've been messing up the whole entire time, but it's like hundreds of years because I remembered one scene from the movie, and otherwise, he goes into space. He visits the Axiom, in which he arrives on the ship. Eventually, Eve gets brought into like the area where they check if there's any contamination on the robots and everything, and Wally blocks one of the spots of the Eve probes and takes its spot, in which they scan him, and Wally's all contaminated, in which Mo goes over to clean him, in which there's a comedic scene where he annoys the crap out of Mo, in which they find the plant inside Eve, and they put her on like this kind of like convoy, I guess you can say, in which like this kind of like a train of sorts, like a lift, and Wally follows them. Mo follows Wally because he's just contaminating the whole freaking place. But otherwise, he actually, surprisingly, we get to notice all the humans, and apparently because of how many years they've been in space, they don't have any exercise at all. They're pretty much all sitting in a chair observing digital, like technology. Technology has their minds. It's just captured them in like this some sort of trance, like illusion. They don't even know what's around them. They don't even know the world that they're in right now. Literally, they're observing themselves through a digital screen that just appears in front of them, in which, of course, they don't know anything about what's going on. I just love the way that this movie's set up, though. It's just, we get the idea that technology can corrupt somebody. Like, it corrupts the minds of anybody it connects to. And nobody can control technology. Technology is something nobody can control. in which we think we can, but we can't. In which that's why technology can control us. Technology is so smart that it can control us. There's so many people every day that is distracted by either a Nintendo Switch, let's just say kids nowadays, or teens, or phones, for an example, which I'm shooting the video on my phone, so I can't show that. But otherwise, you get the point, phones. Otherwise, technology is everything that is in front of everybody, in which nobody gets to observe what's around them. People don't realize the world that they're in which that's the whole point in this movie, in this scene. The scene is probably one of the smartest scenes in any movie I've ever seen, because it shows on how people observe technology more than their surroundings. And I just love this entire film. This is definitely one of the greatest movies of all time. This movie captures everything that could happen. This is a realistic movie, alright? This is a completely realistic movie. The world could fill up with trash. We could end up in space, on a spaceship that is full of people that don't have any weight loss, and they just go around in these chairs that are going circles pretty much all day around the ship. And all that's in front of us is technology in which we're talking to somebody, and they're right next to us. They're right next to you, and you're not talking face to face to them. At least you're talking face to face through a computer screen, or as I could say it, a screen that just appears in front of you. So, yeah, that's what this whole scene is. Eventually, though, Wally accidentally, when some guy named John, and which is voiced by a guy named John in real life, he actually hands him a drink because he thinks he's a drink bot and everything. He's just a regular robot, in which John falls over off his chair, in which he doesn't know what's going on, in which he's asking the robots for help and everything, in which Wally helps him in a way, and in which he helps him, he introduces himself. He's John, and Wally was Wally. So, of course, then Wally finds Eve on the convoy train thing, and kind of like, it looks like a monorail type of thing. Otherwise, he's there, and there's a woman named Mary, in which this is probably one of my favorite parts of the movie right here, is that as soon as everybody finds out that apparently blue's the new red or something like that, something stupid like that, they immediately change their technology. Just from hitting one button, their clothes change a different color. So, her clothes change a different color. And she's talking to the computer, in which Wally tries to move her chair, in which he accidentally breaks one of the speakers, and pretty much breaks the entire thing. He breaks the entire chair, just from touching the chair, in which as soon as the thing turns off, her clothes go back to normal, and she notices the environment she's in. She looks around, and she does not even know what's going on. She is just amazed from what's around her. She doesn't even know. And that's what I just love about it, is that it clearly shows that we have too much time in our phones, that we don't even have any time to observe where we are. So, it's a great movie, and that's what this movie does for you. In which, of course, Wally's taken to the captain of the ship, in which, in the autopilot named Otto, in which, the captain accidentally hits the button playing a song from Hello Dolly. He hears the song, in which it's foreshadowed later on that he remembers it. So yeah. Otherwise, he pretty much does his morning routine, in which he's in the afternoon. So they reset the ship to the morning, in which they just give out this whole thing where they change everything. He gives the morning announcements and everything, and then he notices that an Eve probe has came back positive. It has came back with an organic life, in which he does not know anything about it because no probe has ever came back with a positive response. So he decides to pretty much do a lockdown, and while he presses the button, and he goes to check the probe, in which Eve does not have anything inside her, surprisingly. She doesn't have the plant. We're wondering what happened to the plant. She thinks that Wally took it, in which Wally's right there at the scene. So she immediately checks him. He does not have it. They're wondering where the plant is. So the captain sends her into like this area where they go to reset her. Spoiler alert, fails. I'll explain that after. But of course, the captain also meets Wally, in which it's a scene where he shakes his hand and there's dirt on his hand. He doesn't know what it is that's on his hand, so he goes to analyze it. He finds out it's dirt, and one of the other names of it is Earth, in which he immediately is so fascinated by the term, because he knows the term is one of the plants. He knows what Earth is. So he basically defines everything that was on Earth. He learns all about Earth in like one day, pretty much, in which he's trying to see what Earth is in his time, which we don't see all of it all the time, but he's pretty much checking out everything that's on Earth while he's busy. And later on, we are shown Wally and Eve. Eve is mad at Wally pretty much because she thinks he took the plant. At least that's what they think. Or they have the resetter, in which, because she doesn't have the plan, and they think that she's pretty much crazy. So she's a little ticked off. So of course they go to this area in which is kind of like a quarantine area, except it's more of a reset the robots that malfunction. So in which Wally's put there, in which Wally goes and sees her pretty much getting wiped and everything, and he thinks that she's getting tortured. So he goes to help her, in which he messes up big time, in a way. In a way, he turns the bad into the good later on, but otherwise, he goes and grabs her hand, which turns into a gun. Well, they have her hand as a gun at the moment. So he grabs that, and then he shoots the gun at apparently the system in there and everything, and it turns off all the technology in that room besides the robots that malfunctioned, in which the robots that malfunctioned are actually the revolution in this one, in this like the revolt against the autopilot, which is the villain. Auto is the villain. It's revealed after, in which they get the plant. Oh wait, this isn't the scene where they get the plant yet, but otherwise the next scene is when apparently just because the machines destroyed, they immediately just when they had a thing going around everywhere saying caution robots and everything, and the security pretty much is like getting ready to go after them, in which the oh no, it's not that. That's not that part yet, but otherwise the next part is the one sec. Okay, so she grabs Wally and she wants to send him back to Earth because pretty much he's ruining everything pretty much at this moment. So she goes to the escape pod and she puts him in the escape pod. He keeps coming back because he wants her to be with him, and pretty much he ain't leaving without her. So what happens? One of the other robots comes in, and this is the one that's this robot is one that is like the security robot that is pretty much the head of security, pretty much. And this robot decides to, surprisingly, I have to say this for sure, is that the robot has the plant. And he puts it in the escape pod because he wants to blast it into outer space. So Wally goes into the escape pod to grab the plant, in which Eve completely tells him not to. In which Wally is sent flying into outer space, in which the thing did hit the self-destruct before it sent it out into space. So what happens? He goes out into space, he grabs the plant, and he doesn't know how to shut off the self-destruct. So he tries to get the door open in a way, in which he does get the door open with a fire extinguisher, in which he uses the fire extinguisher to float around in space and fool around, and then eventually he shows Eve the plant. Eve has a lot of respect for him after that, in which they pretty much form a bond, and he gives the plant. They go back onto the ship, they go up to the captain. Well, Eve goes up to the captain with the thing, and in which Otto reveals that they can't go back to Earth. I'm pretty sure Otto reveals at some point that they can't go back to Earth, in which the reason why is because he got a message about, I'm pretty sure that he said exactly 700 years ago. That's why I was like saying before, wait a minute, thousands, hundreds, I don't know. But then I was thinking about it, I was like, didn't he say 700 years ago? So I think he said 700 years ago that the message was sent out to the Axiom, and it was not to return to Earth, in which, because the plan that they had pretty much collapsed on itself by everything getting out of control. So the Axiom stayed out in space, in which the autopilot got the message not to return to Earth, specifically not to return to Earth, in which it's staying its promise and everything. It's promising that it won't, in which, when as soon as Eve goes back and comes up with a plan and everything, the captain goes to grab the plant. He gets the plan and everything, he grabs the plan, and then he calls up Otto, in which Otto somehow, immediately when he sees the plan, he immediately wants it. He's like, give me the plant and everything, and he's like, no, I'm not giving you the plant. In which the other one comes in, the security one, and he pretty much asks him to give him the plan and everything, in which he grabs the plan by force and throws it in the trash, in which, who's in the trash? Wally. Wally's actually climbs up the garbage chute, and he grabs the plant, in which the plant lands on top of him, in which they ask for the plant immediately, in which he puts it inside of him, and Otto electrocutes him, sending him flying down the garbage chute, in which the security bot disables Eve and sends her down the garbage chute, in which she reactivates herself when she is down there, and she goes to find Wally, in which there's bigger Wallys, Wall-A's, that are cleaning up what's down there, in which she rescues him because Mo is there. Mo actually goes to find Wally, in which he gets stuck in the door, and Eve and Wally hold on because of them. The Wall-A's shut the door, in which they notice that because Wally is destroyed. Wally is destroyed. So he gives Eve the plan, in which Eve does not care about the plan right now. She cares about him. So she tries to fix him with what she can find, but she can't fix him. So what does she do? She decides to do what she needs to do, and which she actually goes up into the area where everybody is, and in which the revolt sees them and everything, because Wally hits the button on him, turning on the music, in which they know the music, and that's what they do. They follow him because they know it's him because of the music, in which he's the only one that has music there at all. So they help him out by going around and everything, and they basically have the plan and everything, and the machines see that, and they see the rogue robot thing, and well, the captain sees that rogue robots because they got confronted by the security, and this one robot that has pretty much his arms like cuffed pretty much, except it's like taped, like electrical taped and everything, so it can't move and everything. So they took that away from him, in which he uses it to smash all the security bots. So then, because the image gets sent out, some of the footage that the captain saw from Eve's archival footage, he uses an image of Wally holding the plant, and he shows Otto this video and everything of him with his hand in front of the picture, making it look like he has the plant. But before that, the captain actually tells Wally and Eve to get to this thing where they put the plant into, and the entire ship resets and it goes right to Earth. In which this scene, he hits the button, in which the autopilot actually goes there. Well, he goes to find the captain in his quarters and everything, and then the captain outsmarts him, and he fights Otto and everything, in which Otto overpowers him when he hits the button, and Wally's trying to put the plant inside the thing, but he can't, because the thing keeps going up and down, and eventually he's like trying to hold it open, and what happens is that Wally gets crushed, in which makes the captain, as soon as the captain sees him get crushed, he gets the courage to stand up, in which nobody knows how to stand up on that ship, in which he gets the courage to, and he succeeds. He actually succeeds on standing up. So then he immediately goes to see Otto. He goes over to Otto and he fights him for like a second, and he sets him back to normal. So he's no longer in control. So what does he do? They set the ship back to normal, and Eve gets the plan from the others. The other robots find the plan because they lose the plan at some point, and because the ship tilts and everything, and everything and everyone just flows to one side of the ship, in which they're trying to find the plant, in which the robots find the plant. They give it to Eve, and Eve gives it and puts it in the machine. So then the entire ship goes right to Earth, in which everybody sets foot on the ground. Everybody develops the courage of walking just from seeing the captain start walking. And I love this one scene because of how it shows the courage, because Wally was important to the captain. He was a message. He was pretty much a miracle to him. Like when I was talking about Nope on how we have bad miracles, and that it was like a good thing that the guy survived, and it was a bad thing because he made other people get killed. Except in this one, it was a miracle. It was technically a bad miracle because Wally got crushed, but the captain he pretty much got the courage to stand up and take Otto in a fight, in which he overpowers Otto and turning him back to normal. In which, of course, I just love this movie. Back to Earth, everybody starts walking. Eve immediately sees she immediately brings Wally to the truck and she starts repairing him, putting him back to normal and everything. And eventually Wally gets back to normal. But he is back to normal. All he knows is to pick up garbage, in which he does not know anything about Eve anymore. He has his mind erased. He doesn't remember anything about anything. In which he grabs some of his collectible, all the stuff that he loves, and he makes it into a trash cube, pretty much. In which he goes outside to find more trash, in which she goes outside to stop him and everything, and she's like trying to get a hold of him, like trying to basically get him back to normal, in which she pretty much, the only way that, basically like a robot's kiss is if they touch heads, pretty much, I guess you can say. So she bumps him on the forehead, and there's like an electrical charge that you can see that happens. It like a zap to his head, and eventually she's like holding hands with him, and when she tries to pull her hand away, the hand is still attached to his hand, and eventually his hand starts to grip her, and then you see his eyes reset to normal the way that you see him in the movie, and he has all of his memories back, in which he has the same memories as her, so he got the memories back, in which he remembers who she is, and it's all back to normal. In which this is the end of the movie right here that I'm explaining. And it has the ending that everybody could have hoped for. It has the most perfect ending for this movie, in which we have a zoom out of the Earth and everything. We get to see everybody. They're starting to plant stuff. They have the one plant that was in the movie, and they use it to plant more stuff. In which when the camera's zooming out, we actually get to see there's a good amount of plants that are actually growing. There's actually there's a whole entire section of Earth where plants are growing, where there's life. In which the camera zooms out to show all the satellites and everything. And then the movie's over. The movie is over. Which we get some, like, I guess you could say drawings of, like, what life could be like. And it's showing they create wells, they create, like, food, they create, like, basically a life on Earth and everything under unsuitable conditions currently. But they find a way to create stuff. They find a way to create a good life on Earth again, to make life suitable, in which that's pretty much. But otherwise, instead of me blathering on and on and on, like trying to think of stuff, trying to think of how the story went, because it's been a while since I've watched this one, because it's been months. I mean, I can't remember where it was. Okay, I think I put the movie in correct order, because I've seen this movie so many times, but I don't know which spot scenes go in. I know every scene in the movie, but I don't know sometimes what spots, which ones go which places. But otherwise, there's a reason why this movie is very important. And it's always about protecting the Earth on what could the Earth become if people mistreat it. In which the Earth gets mistreated, then everything's going to be destroyed. The entirety of life will pretty much pass away. There's going to be no life. The oceans clearly dried up. That was clearly the oceans. But one thing I can clearly say is that where the oceans were, that's where all the plants are. Good chance there's water underneath everything. And it was all covered. So, guys, thank you for this movie review. And thank you guys so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified for my latest videos. I'm going to be doing the Star Wars movies at some point, but not anytime soon. So, please, enjoy your life and make sure that the Earth stays clean. Bye.